Hello. So Melody and Molly here, and we are coming from Virginia. Today we're going to be talking about Abenaki history and culture and this whole idea about the suffrage movement and what that really meant to the Abenaki community. But I wanted to take it a little bit in a different direction to help people understand what living in a culture is like, in which you not only have to think of yourselves and in your councils, but you have to think of all the world around you, especially since we're on the circle of creation with many other beings. And so, what is it like to live in a culture in which you know that there's a council of trees or there's a council of corn, and that all of the things have um, have a spirit and they have will and they have voices. What does it mean for us to be the keepers where we are the ones that have to speak on behalf of all other things? So even today, when I was asked to go to the State House a couple years ago, and they wanted to know about the Equal Rights Amendment, and one of the things that I talked about was we're forgetting all the other beings, all the other non-human persons here, and that was really foreign to a lot of people. But to the Abenaki community, that is something that's as old as time as itself, right? To include all other things in this world, and in your thoughts, and in all the decisions that you make. So I wanted to just start by saying I don't have to go over all of our history and culture because I think um, I mean, you can read about that. There's a lot of really great books out there. But the other end of the scale is it's not relevant to today. And what is relevant is the way that we participate in this society, but also how do we get our voices heard in our own councils, and what is that like? So, what would it be like, honestly, if our community was, if we were dominant society was mirroring us, especially since this is our territory. So, what would that be like? Um, First off, I just want to say that in terms of our history and culture, all people change over time. We are a part of a living, breathing, beautiful culture. And if you think about the whole history of Vermont, which is Ndakinna for us, right? And Ndakinna is much bigger than just Vermont. So I just want to also recognize that when we may be talking about Vermont, um, it goes way beyond that. And for us, borders went up through everything. And if you want to learn about the political history of the state, then you need to go back more than 10,000 years from that. So recognize that the dominant way of being right now, that's very new. So you can fit into our history because it is our territory. So I'm going to flip it on its head just a little bit. So if you look back 10,000 years ago, for instance, right? A lot of if you look at our Gluskabi stories about fighting back the ice monsters and sending it to the north, and if this whole area was made available for us to then come in and to live, and Gluskabi shaped that place, and he made it a place that we could be, right? And we have many different creation stories, and we have many different creation stories because society has been remade many different times. So we are due for a new creation story because creation is an ongoing process, and now it includes many other people. So 10,000 years ago, talking about the retreat of the glaciers and Gluskabi fighting back the ice monsters, it's a beautiful story. And what happens when the Champlain Sea is here, and we were, you know, what we were subsisting on was um, sea mammals and things like that. So we were maritime archaic hunters. We were very different than how would you live in that environment, and what kind of a society would you have? What would you believe in? And especially in smaller societies, you have a much more egalitarian place. You have a much more egalitarian lifestyle, and everybody has a voice, right? And also, we recognize that we are on the circle of creation. And so, right from our oldest time, we thought of all other things. And so, if you look at even our language, right? Um, You look at, for instance, the moon. The moon basically translates to the woman that walks across the sky. She is someone we look to almost every night. And when we sing to her, she sings to us. And um, we are a part of creation in that we also have we have a direct line to it. We are always connected. We are creators ourselves. Look, I just created this beautiful thing. And so if you think about it in that way, we are always connecting to the world around us, and um, it wants to. We provide a heart to it, so it matters what you do. It matters what you say, and we have changed over time, just like everything else, just like Mother Earth herself. So think about Vermont being covered in glaciers, to then the Champlain Sea, and then as the isostatic response, the land is starting to rebound over time, then you're cut off from the ocean, and then you get basically what you have more to this modern day. And about 2,000 years ago, we became agriculturalists. So we have this transition over time. We have many different iterations of what it means to be a people. And today, what it means to be a people, we are still agriculturalists. We still grow our crops, and we are definitely part of this modern world. Um, and I will tell you a few stories just about what it means to be a part of a community like this, because when I first became involved with, especially Elnu, they're very traditional, and we've always held um, our political history and all of our protocols within wampum pieces. And so our story was told orally, and we always remembered um, how we were supposed to act, what it was like to be in a council, who gets to participate. And I will tell you that in our spring thaw councils that we had every year, what it meant to have a voice in our society. It means that every single person that can speak, if there's an issue that affects you, it doesn't matter how old you are, everybody gets to participate. So we had little kids speaking out if it meant something to them, as much as the oldest person there. We don't cap it by age, and we don't cap it by gender. We don't do any of that, because we are all part of the society, and without us, we don't have a society, right? Women and children, we are integral, and we are as essential as men in any way, shape, or form, and we help society to grow and prosper. And so, in our communities, there was never a doubt that we have to have a voice. And one of my good friends, Wadey Akins, he passed not long ago, but a long time ago, he visited me, and we were in the kitchen, and I was making him breakfast, and he was like touching everything, right? He was moving the chairs, and um, he had me touch a little bit of everything he was doing too, and um, from setting the table to him adding some spice or whatever. Um, the whole weekend, when he made breakfast, he would have me do the same thing. And finally, I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, we used to live in a way that the circle of all people, and all creation and all things, we were all equal on it together. And what's missing, what's broken now, is that dominant society doesn't understand that." Women have to they're essential, and they're important, and if you don't have their voice, then you are imbalanced, and you are broken, and you have a sick society. And so he said, anything I can do in my own life to even bring back a little bit of that, that's what I'm going to do. And so, Wadey, I miss him very much, but one of the things he always said was, we have to integrate more women's voices into all things, and then that will heal our society, and that will make it more beautiful place to live, and maybe it'll take us back to creation a little bit more. So I will say that, in terms of the way that Elnu runs councils, imagine all of us sitting there together, um, talking about things, children on our lap. The children are listening, they're participating, even if they're not saying anything, they're there and they are participating. And they are integral members of our society because they are people too. Um, and so, if you look at the whole history of the Abenaki people, and if you look at um, the whole range of what you can possibly be in a community and a society, um, the way that my people exist and the way that my people still to this day are trying to cling on to what our ancestors knew best, and all those beautiful things to bring forward, we can really use a few lessons from them. One of the things I always found was interesting. Fred Wiseman told me about this, but the idea of condolence and consolation. So anytime that you have a council or anything, um, you um, you have to take care of the human beings there. Make sure they have food. Make sure that everybody together collectively, um, you're you're making sure that if there's any death, that you're all recognizing it together because you are a community. The whole center of our world is each other and isn't just ourselves. And so, that's the whole essence of our councils, is making sure that everybody knows that they have a place. And when we speak, we're speaking not just for this generation and for the future, we're speaking for all the 7 generations, all the ones we could possibly know, from our great grandparents to our great grandchildren. So, what if we all made decisions based upon that? What if we took the past into account as much as we took the future into account? So, what does it mean to bring forward the best of the past? And what does it mean to um, want our children to grow up in a better place, with the values that their ancestors had? And also that we can live and change, and we're part of a living, breathing culture. So we can still make it a beautiful world in our own way, but take the best of the past and bring it, right? And for me, the best of the past is knowing that we're all part of creation, that when I look up at the sky and see Grandmother Moon, that she is singing to us. And so when we make a decision, we have a responsibility to take every other thing, every other person, because everything that's part of creation is a person. Human beings are just one form of person. And you have to speak for those that can't, right? Or that people don't understand what they're saying. We have a responsibility to them too. So when we're talking about participatory governments and including women's voices, it's not just women who are humans, it's all things. It's the trees, and it's the water, and it's the moon and the sun, and it's all of creation. So I think the way that my people existed is beautiful, and I think that one of the other things that I always take from our councils in the past, is this whole idea of it's called the Wigwam of Silence. But for the first 24 hours of any meeting, you don't say anything. You learn what you're going to be talking about and you think about it. You think about the words that you want to say. And as one of my elders always told me, all words have to go to your head, to your heart, and then out your mouth. Because if it doesn't, then you there's no weight behind your words, and you're just either selling something or you're trying to trick people, and that's not good. So we should always speak with our heart behind it and our head. And the way that we used to do that is the wigwam of silence, and I still take that into account anytime someone makes me mad. And maybe I'm responding to an email or something, but I always take 24 hours and I think about it, and I think about incorporating all the other voices in the world, um, that deserve a voice, that I can give a voice to. So when we're talking about the suffrage movement for Abenaki people, it goes way beyond that. And think about all those beautiful things in the world that we want to take forward with us and what we want to teach to our babies. And so my baby's not too happy right now, but I wanted you to know that in terms of the government and how it is now, we have a ways to go. And while step and one story in the right direction, it was a new creation story. We have many more to tell, and we have a lot a lot further to go when it comes to incorporating new voices. So maybe she's giving her voice too. But thank you, and I hope you enjoy this event.